Welcome to the Right Place podcast, where we learn with you how to navigate the world by building connections that matter, relationships that last, and businesses that thrive. My name is John Watson, and today I'm joined by my co-collaborator, Rudolf. Rudolf, how's it going today?
John, it's always nice to have these discussions with you, but it's going well. Turning into winter now, although I'm still wearing my short sleeves. Turning into winter, and you can feel the evenings and the mornings being cold. And I'm a cricketer, so I like the summertime. How's it going on your side?
No, going good, Rudolf. Totally in autumn season here, proper rugby weather. But going well. Actually enjoy the winter sometimes. It's cold and wet. We get it out of the way, and then we can have some nice dry summer weather. Looking forward to talking to you again today. It's been a while since we sat together. And the topic that we've chosen to talk about today is connection rejection, or when you suffer setbacks in networking. I think we've all been there when we've reached out to someone that we've been recommended to talk to or to contact, and then you don't hear from them, or you meet with them and it's a totally different experience and it didn't go well and there's a bad vibe and you question your life choices and things like that. I think it's going to be quite an interesting discussion.
Yeah, I think as you introed that, I'm thinking of what am I going to say here. And the one thing that first came up to my mind now is I'm not scared of a no. I can accept a no. I really do not have that fear of rejection, of people telling me no. But what I despise, and I think I mentioned it while Chris Fenning was in South Africa earlier this year, is a non-responsive person, no response. That is worse for me. That wastes my time. It gets me to a point where I'm wondering, is it not valuable enough to him? Is it me personally? It causes a bit of self-doubt. Personally, and it's only for me, some people do not like a no at all. They can't deal with it, or they fear that, so they never ask. I can deal with that somehow, and we can talk about that as well. But what I am more afraid of, or what I get angry about almost, is just no response. So I put all this effort in, I plan, I push you to some extent, and I reach out and you just dead. Nothing happens. And it takes a lot of effort, firstly, and secondly, it prevents me from going to the next thing because I am anticipating some sort of an answer here, but I cannot contact 50 people with the same thing, because if all 50 come back and say yes, then I'm swamped and I'm in trouble. So I'm deliberately asking you, if you don't respond, then I'm gonna struggle. So that actually is something that I don't have a way to deal with yet. I don't know what to do. Do I just move on? How are you handling that, John?
Yes, Rudolf, that also irritates me quite a lot. I think we all depend on getting a yes, getting a no, getting a maybe, or it's not the right time. But when you don't hear anything, and especially if it's a small request or it's just a request for a coffee meetup or something like that, it can really affect you and it can really irritate you. And then you start questioning, but why am I even wasting time with this person? I know I've been guilty of myself of not responding. It's just things are hectic, or you forget, or you can't remember what you promised. What I have seen, I think I saw it on LinkedIn or YouTube somewhere, is there are some really good lines that you can put in your email as a bit of a follow-up. Because you don't just want to keep saying, as per my below email, or just following up, or just checking in. And one of the lines that I saw was where you would say, if this is not the right time for this, please let me know, and we can look at this in maybe 6 months' time. So that then the person can say, yes, it's not the right time, or no, sorry, I've been busy. So you give them a different variation of the just checking in, just following up. Something else that I've seen people do is then take it offline and pick up the phone and call the person, because you might have their cell phone number in their email signature, or you ping them on LinkedIn and say, hey, I liked your last post, remember my email, something like that. So almost use a different medium to contact them. I think that can work. There's no guarantees. Again, if the person doesn't want to talk to you, they're not going to pick up the phone, they're not going to respond to your email, they're not going to answer you on LinkedIn. So then you must take that as a no almost.
Yeah, I think that that's quite valuable in terms of allowing the person a way to escape, a method to get out without feeling that he might hurt your feelings or whatever the case is. So just give them a bit of a soft landing in that. I never do that with a first email purely because I'm trying to get the yes, so I write my email so that you almost cannot say no. But if I don't get a response, you need to alter the way you approached it, and I think that is very important. And then one thing that is equally important is that it's not personal. If it's personal, you probably never get something out of this other person, and then you need to move along in more ways than one. But it's not a personal thing. People are busy. People don't have the time to necessarily go through everything that you give them, and especially if you start spamming them, then they probably lock up shop and just not respond at all. But it's not a personal thing, so don't attract that as a negative towards yourself. Yes, it's not nice to hear no or to maybe get ignored, but doesn't mean that you don't have to try again and you just leave it there. You need to be persistent and ask. And the worst thing that can happen is someone would say no. And if someone says no, then you carry on and you go to the next avenue or to an alternative, or you change the way that you've approached it maybe. But the no will not cause you that much harm. It's only a word. It doesn't affect a lot. It doesn't give you. You don't end up in jail because of the no. It's just a no. You can carry on with your life and maybe change your approach, which I think is something to learn from as you hear responses from people. As I'm talking, John, I'm reminded of a video years ago that surfaced quite recently in my life again about a guy that did this rejection study almost, and he got challenged to do 100 continuous days of being rejected. So he went out and wrote a list of 100 things that he can ask people where he knew that they're going to tell him no, and that he can take the no and carry on and realize nothing happened to me. I can't remember his name now, but he very popular video on YouTube. And what came out of that was people actually started saying yes to some of his most ridiculous requests. And two of them, one was a lady working at Krispy Kreme that made the most ridiculous donut. I think a donut in the shape of the Olympic sign. So all these different colors and bound together, and I don't know what else. And they actually made it. And this lady got promoted in Krispy Kreme later on because she showed customer satisfaction and the customer's always right and they gave what they want. So they obviously played it. But he was so surprised because he thought this is ridiculous. And she said yes. And then later on, he got to a point where he asked someone, knocked on his door and asked him if he can play soccer in his backyard. And the guy said, yes, come. And they played soccer in this random person's backyard. So he actually said he set out on this to get to the point where people will tell him no, so that he knows the no is not as painful. It doesn't do anything to me. I can just carry on with my life. But then he got a lot of yeses in those 100 days, and it actually changed the way he thought about asking people stuff. People want to help you. People want you to succeed. And there's this marginal few that actually do not care about anything or anyone. But the bulk of us would want you to succeed. So if you ask something and I can help you and I'm able to, I'll probably do it because it's the way we are. It's the way human beings are made. We want the world to be a better place. We want other people to succeed, and we want to grow our reach as well. So by helping you in the future, I'll be very confident in calling you up with something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple of different rejections that you get. And you have to almost analyze and be aware of where are you in terms of the communication timeline. If you send someone an email today and you expect a response by tomorrow and you don't get it tomorrow, you can't blow your lid and start freaking out yet. It's been literally, it hasn't even been 24 hours. But if you sent an email or if you send a reasonable request and it's a month later or even 2 weeks later, then you can start following up and checking in and things like that. And also, I think we need to be realistic in terms of our expectations on other people. And then also think, why am I actually connecting with this person? Have I done sufficient research? Have I looked into their background on LinkedIn? Is this necessarily the right person? Because the other person receiving your email or your text message might reject you and say, oh, I know this idea, or I've seen this person, or I know of this company, not interested. So they might be rejecting the idea or the company that you work for. They're not necessarily rejecting you as a person. So I think we need to understand from both points of view and understand that perspective, how we are communicating here. So the guy who went to play soccer in someone else's backyard, maybe the guy's got a beautiful backyard and he has always wanted someone to come and play soccer with him. And that's why it was an easy yes. It's like, yeah, you're making my dreams come true here. But if a guy was embarrassed by his backyard, or he doesn't have nice grass, or he hates soccer, he's going to say no. Like, no, I'm not interested. Go away. You're wasting my time. So I think he got very lucky there. And sometimes you do depend on a little bit of luck. If the timing is wrong, it's not going to happen necessarily now. And then, I mean, there's been books and a lot of presentations, and I think some TED Talks even made on turning a no into a maybe and a maybe into a yes. So even if you do get a direct no, that's a good start. At least you know, okay, cool. Now I know where I stand with this person and I can learn from the experience. Maybe I went in too strong. Maybe I mistimed it. Maybe I offended the person in some way, or maybe it's just not meant to be. But if you firmly believe in in the need to talk to this person or to show them something, then you need to understand, okay, how do I turn this no into a maybe? Or how do I just, instead of asking for 2 hours to present, how do I just get 5 minutes with this person? Where does this person go? Maybe I can see them at a networking event. Maybe I can see them at an industry event. Maybe I can just stalk them a little bit on LinkedIn, follow their content, see what they're up to, and tweak my product or my pitch to use some of the language or use some of the terminology that this person is working with. And maybe that will swing them into a maybe, or yeah, I'll give you 5 minutes of my time. So it's easy to put the blame on the other person, but if we don't reflect on what's happened, I think we can end up closing the door. They might have closed the door a little bit, but we can end up pulling it shut, and then we lose the opportunity because we haven't gone that little bit extra to try and figure out what's actually going on.
I like what you said about the level of communication and where you are almost in that communication journey. But I want to maybe move it towards the level of the relationship, because what you're describing in what I'm hearing is a lot of it is a new connection almost. And a new connection is, you don't ask people for the moon and the stars if you don't know them at all. So you first try and build a bit of a relationship. And that is a bit more subtle. So you first get introduced, ask a few interesting questions to learn about them, to understand what they do, where they're from, things that are interesting to you about other people that you would like to know. Build that foundation a bit. Have the coffee. And yes, if they say no to the coffee, it might be timing. It might be not the right time for them, or they're just swamped at the moment. At least say, listen, within the next month, I want to go and have a coffee with you. And then they're flexible. They can say, listen, yeah, I'm very busy at the moment. What about next week or the week after? So first establish some ground principles, some values that you have in common, some things that can bind you together, and build the relationship before you go and ask for, listen, I need R1 million loan. I can't get it at the bank. Can you invest in my business? That is a completely different discussion. And you don't have that type of a discussion with a stranger. I mean, people need to trust you as well. So I think where you are in that journey of the relationship also changes the type of things that you can ask of people. And I think one other point that I also want to make is time is such a valuable commodity these days. We're so swamped with so many things. I mean, we both have kids. The kids keep us busy. Work keeps us busy. We have wives that we need to please as well. So our personal life, our work life, everything is busy. And then to do someone a favor is almost this, I would like to do it, but I really just can't at the moment. But if you catch me at the right time, I'd be very willing to help. So I think it's also good to understand the person and his background and so on before you jump into that. And if I tell you, listen, at the moment, I really cannot. I'm in peak season. Everything's happening at once. Can we maybe look at this middle of the year? Then you might say, yes, it's bad timing for me now because I need it now, but at least the door's still open. But if you come and say, listen, I want the meeting tomorrow, I'm like, dude, I'm not in South Africa tomorrow, then the meeting's not going to happen, and you've irritated me, and thus we're not going to have that meeting, probably ever. So I think we need to be human. We need to understand the other person, and we need to understand we need to know real life, and that the timing of the question could be right for you, but not for the other person. But that is not a no. And you can just by working with the other person actually get to a point where you can have that sit down, or you can have a bit of a better response because the timing suits the other person better.
I agree with you. I think you need to be aware of what is the other person currently facing, what challenges are they experiencing. They might be going through a very busy time at work, and then it's not the right time. And you don't want to be that irritating, nagging person that just carries on and completely oblivious to the other person and their life and their challenges or their business. And also then when you actually get to that appointment, especially if it's taken 6 months to get there, you better be very sure about what you're going to say, what you're going to show them. Because if you're going to really waste their time, they are not going to be happy, because they've known you've sent 10 emails and voice notes and WhatsApps and LinkedIn messages. And then you get in front of them for your half an hour or your hour-long coffee chat, and then you just come off the rails and it's a disaster and you waste their time and it's obviously not a right fit. So use the time wisely. If it's going to take a couple of weeks or months to get together, then fine-tune your pitch, fine-tune your product or why you need the person. Do your research, do your homework, that you can maximize the time to get value out of the discussion that you have. And then the other thing I would add is make sure that you're also adding value to them, either connecting them with someone that you know, or giving some positive advice or energy about their product or their business, so that that person doesn't just feel that you're taking from them. If you're just going to have a meeting to mine their ideas or mine people in their network, and who do you know, and I need this, I need that, it's you're not going to build the relationship that way. And like you said, there needs to be some relationship part. If it's just going to be a one-way transaction, then it's not going to be worth the other person's while. They need to see value in what you're bringing, and hopefully in the way that you approach it, you can avoid rejection. You can show value up front, and the person understands, okay, this is going to be a good meeting to take, even though it's not the right time now. When we do talk in 2 or 3 months' time, it's going to be worth my while.
So I'm thinking of how do I deal with the fact that it went off the rails. So I'm sitting in this coffee meeting. I just completely failed in my mission. How do I deal with that? Because now it can either affect me personally, and it actually frustrates me for a long time, or it actually prevents me from moving forward completely. Or if it's via email or so on, and the person tells me, no, I'm not interested, what do I do then? And in my view, for you to maintain the relationship or to potentially have a yes in the future, you cannot ignore that email. The no is also an answer. And instead of you now pushing because the guy's not responding, at least you know where he stands. And you need to take that and respond. I think that's the very first thing. Even if you have a face-to-face meeting and the meeting didn't go the way you wanted it to do, be nice, be a human and respond. Say, listen, thank you for your time. Send him a mail afterwards like, listen, I appreciate you coming out for the meeting. It was so interesting to meet you. And I'm sure in future we might find something where we can collaborate or work together, or where we can reach a different outcome. So just keep the door open, because if you don't respond and you don't deal with the situation, the no is the last thing that will ever happen between the two of you, because then it's a no and it's a done deal. But if you take that no and convert it and say, listen, thank you, I appreciate you telling me that we can't do it now. I would like to keep in touch for future things and so on. That person will also feel like, okay, thank Evans. He's not angry at me for saying no. He understands. So I think it's important that we keep the communication flowing. And both of us are quite naturally positive people. So we easily take it on the chin and we'll convert it into something. But I think it's important that you don't just be non-responsive. Don't be the person that you don't want the other person to be. So respond to that person in the way that you want him to treat you as well.
Absolutely. And don't try and force the issue. If you get a no, just give some space before you start jumping in and say, no, but it's the best idea ever, and this and that. Just give a little bit of space. Because if you're going to be over the top, you might create a lot of space, a negative space in the relationship, that you're overly pushy, you're full of yourself, it's your way or the highway. So I like what you said there about accept the no, reflect on it, and see what you can do better next time, or see how you can improve your offering. You need to consider, what am I bringing to the table here? Is this actually a good idea? Is this a good idea 5 years ago or 10 years ago? Has everybody moved on? Has everybody found a better way to do it? So use that time, because sometimes it is a good thing. Before you go and make the same mistake again, you might think this is the best idea. This is the best idea. Listen to the no. So the person's telling you no for a reason. And he might be doing you a favor that you're going completely down the wrong path. And you need to self-reflect. You need to take it back to the drawing board, take it back to the team, and like, maybe this isn't the best idea in the world. I also think you need to reflect on not only the timing and then your actual offering here, but is this the right thing to do? Am I actually talking to the right person here? A no might be that this person is already overloaded, and I might then need to go and talk to some other people in my network. What I've encouraged people to do is, if you've got a good idea, you've got a good product or a good project on your hands, talk about it to a few people in your network and say, who could I talk to about this? Or how can I refine this idea a bit better? Or is this something that you would go for? So you almost test the waters a little bit, and you'll get some valuable feedback from your top 5 people, as Judy Robinet would say. And then you've got a bit more ammunition when you do go and approach other people. So if someone connects you with, oh, you must go and speak to Dave, and it's a completely random person you've never met before, then at least I've tested my idea with 3 or 4 other people, that when I do speak to Dave, I'm not going in cold, and I'll be able to answer some of the questions that someone like that might ask me.
Yeah, it's important to pivot out of that no. But do your preparation. Be sure that you are talking to the right person. If you're just meeting for the sake of meeting a new person, you've got nothing to lose. And if he says no, then it's no, and you meet someone else. But if it's transactional, it becomes something that you want to build on for further work or for a deeper relationship and so on. And there is a no. Yeah, pivot out of it through to something else, to an alternative at least, or just keep that specific door open. I think that fear of a no is so entrenched in us, and I'm trying to think of the psychology behind it. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm wondering why we are like that, where if someone tells us no, it actually affects us emotionally. We feel let down, and you suddenly reflect on yourself as this bad human being because the person said no. But in actual fact, it might be situational. It's completely in their hands, something on their end that's not reflecting on me at all. And I'm wondering why it is that we attract it to ourselves and we take it personally, or that we lose interest in something because someone told us no. And maybe a quick story. I've been busy with this storage unit place here in Centurion, and we've probably over the last 2 months had about 5 or 6 meetings with financing institutions, of which 5 of those meetings were with the same place. And every time they come back with different terms, and then there's a new tweak in it that we don't like. And then for a weekend, myself and Peter would sit and we'd say, no, this is not good enough. And then the next week we're back at them and we're like, no, can we rather look at it like this? So we've been trying to push them into a direction, and they're obviously pushing us to a direction. But you're getting to a point where you can actually meet each other, and it's been friendly. It's been it's nothing. We're not fighting or arm wrestling, but everyone's protecting their own interest. We're working together. They want to help us, and we want the money, but we cannot accept the first thing that they gave us. But if I lost interest because they pushed back and said, listen, we're pushing the interest up to prime plus 5, and my sums don't work out, I could just have drawn the line and said, okay, this thing's not going to work. Let's move on to the next adventure. But you need to be flexible in your approach. So you can't be the reason for the no in the end. So if you really want that thing to happen and it's viable and you're working on it, you need to be able to work with what someone else gives you and change that in a way that suits both of you in the end until you get to common ground. It's transactional on the one side, but you can only do that if you are willing to sacrifice a little bit of your pride or your hurt feelings or so on. It's a matter of getting to a point where it works for everyone. And if it comes to values, if it's something where you really see, listen, I cannot work with this person because of a mistrust issue or so on, that's a completely different thing. But if it's transactional, make it work for you, even though there was a no or a maybe. It might take longer. It might be not exactly what you wanted, but it's still viable. But make it work for you and pivot out of that situation.
I agree with you. I think it's important to reflect on those things when they happen, and then be known as a person that can work with other people. If you're just going to reject, they say no to you, and then you say no to them, and you cut them off, and then you lose that relationship. You lose that opportunity to work together in the future. There's been quite a few posts on LinkedIn about self-rejection. Don't self-reject. Don't burn the bridge. Don't cut it off just yet because you're so arrogant or you can't work together. Reflect on that, see what you can change, see how you can still make it happen, especially if you've done your homework and you've identified these are the right people to work with. This is the right project team. These are the people I need to be connected to. Then do what you need to do. It might just take 6 months of relationship building to get to a point where you're comfortable with them, they're comfortable with you, and then you can iron out the T's and C's, and it will just happen. But it's not going to happen in the first minute. It's not going to happen in your elevator pitch or your first meeting. And there is still opportunity for you to learn, because when you're doing something like this, you're learning about how to do business. You're learning how to talk to people. You're learning what makes them tick. And there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. Some people have very specific things that they need to see in you before they'll move forward. Some people have boxes to tick. And if you're not meeting that just yet, they're gonna be a little bit cautious. They're gonna say, not yet. So find out about those things. And you can even ask them direct questions. What do we need to get this done? I believe in this project. I believe you're the right person. What do we need to get this done? So that might take some hard conversations, but I think it's going to be worth it down the line, because you as you accumulate this knowledge, the next time it happens, you'll be able to do it faster. You'll be able to do it better. But if you're just going to reject it after they reject you, you're never going to learn anything. You're not going to be able to move forward. You're not going to, and that's going to affect your network, and it's going to affect the doors that can open for you. So it's important to be mindful of that. There's actually a lot going on behind the scenes and in the scenes when you're talking to someone, when you bring in someone a business idea. There's a hang of a lot going on. And like you said about the psychology of the no, there's a whole psychology chapter going on in front of you and around you when you're talking to people like this. So it's not as it is as simple as a yes or no, but to get to that yes or no, there's a hang of a lot of brain power being used to figure out, is this the right thing to do?
Yeah, I think we dealt with a few very simple but effective concepts today, and I need to go and listen to this myself again to try and see where I can improve in this approach of mine, because a yes and a no is reality. You're going to have some yeses and you're going to have some no's, and you can't let the no's overshadow the potential wins that you have. I think we've dealt with a number of different scenarios in meeting new people and transacting with them and just building relationships, and all of those have its place, but it's important to understand exactly where you are, and I think that to me is the foundation of building towards a yes, because you can actually build your conversation or construct your approach better if you know exactly what you want to achieve, but also where you are in that relationship. So that to me is foundational in this whole thing. I think at some stage, and I need to go and read a bit, but at some stage I would like to understand personally why it is that a no affects us. So I think that to me would be very interesting to see how I can improve the way I react. And that's one of the takeaways for me from this discussion, in that I want to improve the way I operate after someone told me no, or where I've been let down almost, and to get to a point where it improves the way I operate. But yeah, it was a fascinating discussion, John. I always enjoy how almost matter of fact you know these type of things, like you've got a script in front of you, and I know you don't. So it's very interesting to me how you've lived this, and I appreciate that. I think you add a lot of value in this conversation today.
No, thanks, Rudolf. No, it's been fascinating. I promise you that I've got no script in front of me.
I know.
Some of these things I think, because I mean, we've all faced no's before, and then you need to you need to reflect, and I think maybe that's the key today. Reflect on what is going on. Reflect on the environment. Reflect on the situation. Reflect on the timelines. Reflect on the people involved. Reflect on your offer. Just reflect on that type of stuff, and the answer to the no or the yes or the maybe lies within that.
Yeah, perfect. So I think we'll cut off there. It was very interesting discussion. I think we can follow up on this one rather soon, because there's a lot more that we can discuss, and we always say that, but it is the truth. Yeah, so thanks for listening to us. Thanks, John, for partnering on this today, and we'll see you guys again at the right place. Goodbye.
Cheers.